We're now testing the audio. The audio is being tested. I forgot to turn the transcription on. There we go. Confirm. So, confirm.
I'm trying to think, what are the good like West Coast like fast food chains?
In-N-Out people love.
There's an In-N-Out very close to my grandpa's house.
Yeah.
The burgers were good, and it was cheap. The fries were pretty good.
I think I went there once when I was a kid, but I don't remember it. I also thought there was a Culver's near that one, but I did not realize Culver's made its way to the Southwest.
Well, we are getting audio. That's nice. The cup is up.
Do you guys want the lights on?
No.
No, that one was a free. I'm like, ghettos are on.
We should just leave it like this, you know?
All the time?
Just all the time. Maybe it'll calm people down.
Maybe. We put on some candles, turn on
Some music.
light some candles,
Yeah. Set the mood.
lead everyone in a yoga flow before the meeting.
This is an audio test.
Oh,
No, you guys are good. We're testing the audio. Continuing to test the audio.
I think you're being.
Can we hear anything? I don't know, maybe. Yeah, we're still testing the audio. It's
attention
going
today's
great.
collaboration.
I want you to focus on today's internet.
That's totally how you should present too. In that voice.
Sorry.
But yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the June 2nd Technical Committee meeting. Hope everyone enjoyed your month off. We'll start with a roll call, starting down there with Samad.
On order, Triangle West TPO.
Doug Plachinsky, Triangle West.
Beck Eversole, one more last time, Town of Carver.
Tony Shado, Chatham County.
Caroline Dwyer, Chapel Hill Transit. Colleen McHugh, Triangle West.
Eric Vitale, City of Durham.
Dan Burlesheimer, Town of Chapel Hill.
Sarah Williamson, Orange County.
Josh Schmidt, Town of Chapel Hill.
Meg Scully, Go Triangle. Lindsay Smart, City of Durham.
Ann Kayla for RTP.
Curtis Campagnano, Durham County.
Josh Barrett, City of Durham.
Stephanie Trueblood, Town of Hillsborough.
Matt Day, Central Pines.
Toya Smith, NCDOT Division 7.
Beauty from Triangle West TPO. Hi, Monet Moore, Triangle West TPO.
Madeline Galliano, Triangle West.
Hi, Lucia Ciro, Triangle West.
Kara Russell Campo.
Catherine Miller, Go Triangle.
Wonderful, Smith, thank you. I know there's a couple adjustments to the agenda. Do you want to touch on those?
Yes, the presentation number 17 on CMAC, we're pulling from the agenda today. We have a lot of other informational presentations to get through, so we'll bump that one to August. And I believe there's also an additional item being added to the agenda. Doug has the details on that one. All right.
The City of Durham request.
City of Durham request.
City of Durham has a request to shift some programming around their 5307 projects, in addition to adding a grant that they've already received, which is an area of persistent poverty grant.
Eric, is that on consent or? Okay, thank you.
And then, Eric, we had requested that the 5307 apportionment split and honestly the 5339 be pulled from consent for
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah, well, we can approve the rest of the consent and then pull that one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's see. Anyone signed up for public comment today?
We did not receive any requests in advance. Is there anyone online? All right, no public comment.
All right, reports from TPO staff.
I would just like to highlight, there's a new attachment with our staff report. This is something we will be continuing to do monthly, is publishing a fatal crash report for all of the fatal and serious injury crashes that are occurring in our TPO area for that month. We received these updates from NCDOT, and we felt that this was an important way to keep safety at the forefront of all of our minds now that we have our adopted safety action plan. And I don't have anything else to add other than Yudi Fang introduced herself at the beginning. She's an intern who started with us last week from UNC. So we're excited to have her working with us for the next couple semesters.
Thank you. I don't have anything to report on today, so NCDOT reports, Division 5.
Division 5 online.
Okay, we can check at the very end. Division 7.
I apologize, I lost my spot. So we have several under construction. I'll kind of skip over the ones that are under development. Anything that's in the red is something that has changed since the last time we met. Just kind of focusing on under construction, the widening of I-40 from 85 to Orange County is about 78% complete, and they're doing the concrete pavement to resume placement. I think they did that a couple of days ago. So I just want to touch base on that. And then there's another project that is under construction that they're awaiting the signal designs for on, yeah, I didn't bring my glasses so I can't see. SS 6207B8. There's various intersections along the 8540 corridor that we're working on getting signals put in.
Questions, comments? Yeah.
Thank you for that. Could you provide just a more specific update about the pedestrian activated crossings on 54? I think it's PL 0044. I've just been asked a question about that for a meeting tonight.
I don't have that one on the top of my head real quick, but I can get that back to you. You said the PED. What was your question again? The status on the PED bridge?
It was, it's a series of 3 pedestrian activated crossings across NC 54. it looks like utility work is finally finished and there's some disruption of the pavement, hopefully in anticipation of putting in some pedestrian islands, refuge islands kind of in the center area. That's what it looked like driving by, so I just wanted to confirm that.
Okay, I'll get that to you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Division 8,
We don't have an engineer still, they're still trying to find a position.
Justin Richardson is online.
anything to report? Justin?
Yeah, hey, sorry. This is Justin Richardson, Division 8. We have no new updates on our end. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you. DPD,
No updates today.
okay, thanks, Julie. Anyone on from IMD? No, anyone ever come on from Division 5?
Does not like it.
Okay, we'll move along. On the consent agenda, we have April 7th, 2026 TC minutes. We have section 5307, full apportionment split letter. Section 5339, full apportionment split letter. We have been, at the request of one of our members, been asked to pull the split letters for discussion, so I'll give you the floor.
Thank you. Yes, there's a long history on these split letters. The reason for pulling it today is a process question for both 5307 and 5339. So the letter itself indicates that there's been review and agreement by the transit systems, and that just hasn't happened. At least I can speak for Go Triangle. This wasn't shared with us, and the way in which they were split is inconsistent with how the splits have been done in the past, and that's kind of the content question. So last year at this time, there was a same sort of situation where there had to be like a quick decision made, an approval made, even though the way in which the split was made was we had requested a review of that process. And so we agreed kind of as a group, the transit systems, to go ahead and approve, recommend, and then to spend time during the year to discuss what the process was, so that when we got to this point in time this year, that there wouldn't be a quick decision that had to be made in order for the transit systems to be able to access their money. And so we had a meeting in October, and we were discussing some of the content in the formula that's typically used for these splits. And it's based on the FTA formula, which is how the funding gets allocated to this UZA. And it's based on 3 different service data points, as well as population of the UZA. And so we had discussed that in the October meeting, and there were some to-dos that came out of that, and then nothing happened. And we came to this agenda item, and it says that we had reviewed these and approved them, and essentially what was done was same percentage split. So after it was, run through the formula 2 years ago based on FTA data, you end up with a percentage. Each agency gets so much percentage, and the same percentages were just taken and brought forward and rounded off. But typically the FTA data would be inserted into the formula because data change from year to year, and systems are providing a different amount and consumers are consuming a different amount of service, which is how the formula gets used by the feds and funding is allocated to the UZA. So I wanted to pull it to talk about this. And so once again, we're up against a time constraint for no obvious reason. We're not using a formula that had been, used for 27 years now. And we're just looking at old percentages based on, as far as I can tell, nothing. So I would just like to ask the staff to develop a timeline where we can have a conversation about this so that we don't end up in the same place again next year. And this is true for both 5307 and 5339. They use the same data that is certified by FTA for the transit systems. And it's split out in the same sort of way. So both letters. And then there's just some minor corrections on the letters. I don't think Paris Orr works for FTA any longer. And she's listed here as the community planner. I think she left a while ago.
Okay, thank you. So you're asking if, there can be some discussions before this comes back next year. You're okay with going forward just because of the time crunch right now?
Exactly.
But would like to review this next year.
Yeah, I'm not at all pleased with the way this is split out, but I recognize that there are transit systems that want to be able to apply for these funds now and get them under use.
Okay.
So
I'm thinking this might be a good discussion for the TOSC once that forms, but I know that's contingent on whenever the MOU passes. Can that be formed pretty much immediately after the MOU passes, Doug? The TOSC, or is that there's still process?
I think there's latitude under the current bylaws that you as the chair can appoint it now.
A special subcommittee.
So can I just say that for the 16 years that I've known this MPO pretty closely, we've been able to split these funds up based on FTA data and FTA formula without this new committee. It's the transit subcommittee that was called on an ad hoc basis. And this was one of the chief things that was done. So until that other committee is formed, I don't know why we can't just rely on the 4 transit systems to meet like they typically have for at least 16 years, maybe all 28 years that I'm aware of Go Triangle being a member.
So do you need me to set something up?
No, it's just a simple meeting that MPO staff could call and we could start the conversation. Kind of like what we did last October, but then the work never got done when we left that meeting.
I mean, before transit agencies could meet on their own and decide this. They do not need us. We'd be happy to, if that is the direction.
Do you want to go ahead and set that up and report back to us once y'all meet?
If there's a commitment to carry out what it is those 4 transit systems agree to do.
Okay, I mean, we can bring it back to one of the boards and future date, even before that comes back, we just to get the approval of the formula. Is that something we can do? If they decide something different?
Sure.
I think it would just be a recommendation to the TC, not that the TC is agreeing to do exactly what the transit systems the board
Vote
on,
decide.
because
Yeah, it would be a recommendation, that's right.
it would just be clear that everybody understands that ahead
The
of
board
time.
will have the final approval, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That doesn't change. I think what I'm getting at is that that be the process. So
Okay.
if the 4 transit systems come back having recommended one way or another, that go right to the TC.
Okay, and then we'll send it to the deal board, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, we would also prefer for whatever is agreed upon, should they happen to find consensus, which it did not appear it's the direction they were headed in last year, that we enshrine that agreement in a significant term MOU that prescribes the process forward.
Okay.
I think that there also needs to be a contingency built into this in the event that a consensus can't be reached. Which I think there needs to be defined a process too, I guess. So, how the decision will be made, and I don't know if that's part of like the first meeting of the committee, just identifying a, reasonable process of discussing and recommending options and voting on something that we would then bring to the TC. But I do think we need to build in the consideration in the event that there is no agreement. So
There's 2 entities that can direct programming of these funds. Or rule of funds, I should say. That's the governor's office and this MPO board. The MPO board can decide however it likes, formulas or not, to to award the funding to different agencies. They go award project by project. You know, if we're unable to find consensus amongst the 4 and potentially 5, if the Chatham Transit Network ends up growing
It's for fixed route.
over the next few years, that discussion. So, you know, we do need to consider that. And hopefully the partners will be able to work things out.
Okay.
And this relates to the current letters that are on the agenda or future letters?
Sounded like future.
Okay.
We're good?
Eric, are you, so just to, sorry, recap, make sure I'm clear, you are appointing a subcommittee? Is that what is happening?
No, they're just gonna meet on their own, and report back to us, and then when
I'd like a little more structure than that, I think. Is it possible to create a subcommittee that I think just to ensure that everybody knows who's responsible for what, I would prefer that there be a bit more structure than just me, good luck.
Okay.
So it's the 4 transit systems traditionally, and the letter even speaks to the 4 transit systems having reviewed and approved. So I would recommend that it be the 4 transit systems.
You're welcome to appoint someone to organize that committee as chair of the TC.
Would you want to take on
Sure.
heading that? Okay.
Sure will.
Congratulations, you're now the head of the committee.
I'm sorry, but does the chair of the subcommittee need to be a member of the TC? Because I haven't seen Meg at these meetings before, so I just wasn't clear. Are you a TC member?
Yes, Sarah. Sorry.
We received an email from Dr. Smith yesterday appointing Meg as the alternate.
And approval from Colleen on Friday, appointing Meg as an alternate.
We need official appointment from the CEO.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So we have it twice. And just for a little history, so I did this process for 6 years when I was at the MPO.
We don't need the history, Meg.
That's okay. You asked if I was a member, so I'm just clarifying that I did this process for 6 years, and as a regional provider, we participate in the exact same conversations at Campo and also at Burlington Graham. So all 3 MPOs, we have to participate in this process.
For information, will you include both me and the TPO just on the emails for the subcommittee?
Sure.
Just so we're in the loop. Thank you. Okay, sounds like we're in good shape now. Any other comments on that?
So just to recap, so the subcommittee will meet and prepare recommendations that will then come back to this group, or will they just move forward to the board for endorsement?
I think what I heard is we'll bring it right back to this group.
That's what I thought. Just wanted to be sure.
If there's a consensus.
Yes, it'll be a vote. It doesn't need to be consensus. It'll be
Well,
a
the
vote.
conversation we just had was consensus, and I want it to be consensus. If we're not gonna all agree, then it doesn't work for everybody.
Okay, I think we have a clear direction.
I'm not clear. I'm sorry, and I'll be one of the operators.
What are you not clear on? I'm sorry.
Meg says that it will be based on a vote, and I would like it to be on consensus, because that was the language that was used earlier in the conversation.
I think this can probably be hashed out through a different meeting. We're agreeing to table this conversation. I think we should agree to table this conversation and allow the subcommittee to meet and figure all these things out. If we're gonna ask for there to be a subcommittee meeting, then some of these details can be handled by that subcommittee and not by the full TC, I think is more appropriate.
I would strongly encourage the participants on that subcommittee to work very hard towards consensus, because that would be what the MPO board would prefer to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good point. Okay, so yeah, until that meeting happens, we'll leave that item as is for now. So I guess back to the consent agenda, I already read the items, so any other comments, questions, or concerns about the consent agenda?
Just to clarify, did you say both items 8 and 9 were being pulled from consent, or just item 8?
Well, everything's being voted on, but that was just for the future. I think it's gonna be voted on as is.
Okay, but I just wanted to know if there was any discussion needed for item.
9 was the same.
5339.
It was the same.
Yeah, I think they're like gonna talk about both of the split letter. Looking for motions.
So
Moved by Aaron,
Second by Lindsay.
second by Lindsay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Under our first action item, call for projects, funding recommendation, come on.
Hello, Bill, mine.
So hi everyone, I'm Dean Martin, I'm TPO. I'm here to cover our projects that will be recommended. So in this presentation, I'm going to quickly go over our schedule as well as some summary that supplies us, as well as go over the results of our whole period, and then some overview of the projects that ultimately will receive recommendation. So for the schedule quickly, we've been going through the process for most of this year so far. We are close to the end. One last step is just the order of people after this, before the projects will be listed. And that's with this timeline as more so we start programming. And so after the movement is approved by this board, it will go to DOT to be approved by the board. And so for the funding that was set at the beginning of this call, just showing different funding sources that were used, as well as the fund swaps that we also incorporated during this call. And it's a bit of analysis of the jurisdictions as well as the projects that went into this, just showing the ratios of amount of funding that we towards each jurisdiction, as well as different types of projects that are within this call. So for the public comment period, last month is when it went out for 30 days. We set up a public input site to share information on our website and email newsletters. Some staff also attended a community event over at the Grove community where they shared information on the chicken junction project that residents over there are curious about. As far as the comments that received, I received around 9 comments total from those sources, and those sources largely are supportive of isolation facilities as well as transit accommodations. Going into the projects now, so at the beginning of this call, several agencies with 19 co-interested projects. We also have the total amount of funding that was present here, as well as the amount we had available. So with this amount, we're able to recommend 13 projects, 5 new ones, and 8 existing projects. Going into the projects themselves, so here are the existing projects that were awarded funding. Different from last time, the first column of the cost is just the federal amount that was awarded during this call. Right next to it are all the other funds that are already on the project, and that includes local match and also any other federal sources. And then finally is the total, grand total for that project, including what has been awarded during right now, and also including the local match for this project. And then for our new projects, since there are no funds to go on to, these will newly be entering this dip. One difference from last time is the City of Durham, electric vehicle charge stations at the Bay Street, they withdrew that request from this call. And so, like I said, after this, it'll go to the board for approval as well as approval of the TIF amendment. And following that is when we'll submit the TIF amendments as well as submit similar applications to ACDOT, just to get timelines of that process. Are you taking any questions? Otherwise, we're going to recommend approval of these projects.
The city would like to just have a quick discussion about fully applying the balance of, so we withdrew the EV charging project from the call for projects. And we were able to apply some of the funding from that project to the Fayetteville road project, transit project. And we would like to, and we weren't able to apply. It was going to be about 3.8 million from the electric vehicle charging project. And we were approved to apply a portion of that to the Fayetteville Road project. And we're told that Fayetteville Road was capped out for individual project cap, and we couldn't apply the other 1.2 million that we were hoping to put onto that project. And that we might be able to have a conversation at the TC to allow that to happen. So as part of this, could we discuss that? And then maybe the motion would move forward. Then, so procedurally, after that discussion, could the motion be to make a change and then recommend it to the board? Would that still be okay? Is that, so this is the right moment to have that conversation then?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't want to.
Yeah, that would be a
didn't want to float that if the train already left the
one-time
station.
cap. I don't, what's the word I'm looking for?
Context,
Yeah.
So within this call, we have caps, one for an individual project and one for the organization for the funds of all the projects we total in C. So currently, the city of Durham has hit the individual project cap for the Fayetteville project, though they have not reached the agency cap. And so they are asking the TC for consensus on if they can go past that cap to be able to fully fund the Fayetteville transit infrastructure.
And for a little additional context, it wouldn't put us over the agency cap even if we were to get that additional money. And the 1.2 wasn't put on anything else either when it was swapped. It was just went back into pot, so.
So there's unassigned money?
No, it's not unassigned. There's 20% additional funding that we've allocated in over-programming for this. It's not unassigned.
They just did the last program.
Yeah, we over-programmed even more money.
Right.
We were over-programming less. If we are allowing the city to waive the cap for this one project, we would still be over-programmed. Does that make sense?
So should we
Is
wait?
the money available or it's not available? I guess is, like, that is confusing.
It's
I thought I was
available.
following until
Yeah.
that.
So our policy, our federal policy allows us to overprogram 20% of our call for projects because of changes with project schedules and delivery when it comes actually time to deliver the projects. Sometimes projects don't move forward on the schedule that has been initially requested. So this is also something Campo does. We've added additional funding to the call that doesn't really exist, but.
So, but it's,
But we
you're
can.
saying it's within that buffer?
Yes.
Understood.
So if I could ask a question in a way that I understand better.
Sure.
You originally oversold the plane by 10 seats.
Yep.
You removed money around, so now it's only oversold by 8 seats, and now the city's asking you to go back to 10 seats oversold.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I know.
And it's money that the city would be eligible for generally. It's just because the individual project cap is.
That's right.
Okay,
No issues.
gotcha.
And Aaron, it's slightly more involved than your analogy because there was 3.8 million on the EV charging project and we defunded that and put 2.6 million-ish on to Fayetteville. So there's that 1.2 million from that project that,
Okay,
so we weren't trying to take anyone else's seat or take away anyone else's project.
understood, yeah,
It
and
was
that
fine.
actually aligns with my thinking.
Okay.
Okay.
We're just filling seats in the aisle now.
That's right.
Somebody's ready to
For
jump.
those extra flight
Like
attendants.
attaching people to the wings. Yeah.
Yes, Doug.
If I could ask, and this is just more to talk about the project for a minute. My understanding that once the funding is programmed, this project will be on a somewhat accelerated schedule to begin advertising for the work, correct?
The Fayetteville?
Mhm.
Yeah, it'll fully fund phases 1 and 2 for us. So it'll help, deliver that project.
And you are aware that the Fayetteville TEC got a relatively high score in the spot process, so hopefully there will be more coming right behind it.
Yeah, correct. Thank you.
Does MPO staff have any concern? This is the first time I'm aware of that we've talked about going above that cap. Is there any concern from MPO staff about precedence, that this is gonna be something we get asked about year after year, or are we okay with a one-off on this? Because
There's a reason
it's a
why-
high priority project for the city that they really want done, and my thinking is, I'd rather have fewer big projects actually get done than a smattering of things on small ones, so.
That's why we requested the city bring this up with the whole committee rather than asking. I mean, the policy allows me to waive that cap, but I wasn't comfortable doing that because of the precedent,
I
so.
appreciate that, thank you.
We could also loosely argue that with the cap was being set at approximately 30 million, but with the over-programming up to 35.6 or whatever the number, up to almost 36 million, we could recalibrate all of the project caps anyway. And then this would then not exceed that project cap if that was loosely argued, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I had a separate question about a different project. Does anyone else have any questions about that? I had a separate question about a different project. We were thinking about the Cheek Junction project. I guess this is a question for DOT. If you know, I know the sidewalk, we talked about a pre-TC meeting to put sidewalk facilities along the entire extent of one of the sides of the road of the project. And maybe, you know, potentially make those multi-use path facilities. If that goes through and, you know, in the part that's not within the city limits, there's no one to maintain those, how is that gonna move forward? Can that move forward with, like, who's gonna maintain the sidewalk that's not within the city limits, I guess is my question. If we move forward with the multi-use path or even sidewalks. Is that something DOT would be willing to take on for the part that's outside of the city limits?
No. And this is coming from district experience, and most times sidewalk has to be maintained by municipality, a HOA, or some other entity that's not DOT.
Can the developer potentially maintain some of it?
That can be tricky, because if it's not a developer that is gonna be there, then no, because most times a developer develops, he sells it and then he moves on and develops somewhere else. So then there's no guarantees that he will always be around. So that's why most times when a development comes through and the municipality requires a sidewalk, the 3-party encroachment is a 3-party, with the municipality being the person maintaining it. So it may just stop outside of those limits, or you may have to bring it into your EPJ so it can be maintained, but we won't do it.
Has there ever been instances where municipalities annexed just the public right of way?
Yes.
To be able to
Yeah,
do
we've
that?
done that in Durham before.
Hi, I get
It
it.
has been done.
Yeah, Greensboro does it all the time.
You would need to get Marvin to agree to that,
Right, of course.
but we can do it.
Right.
So I would say also, this has been a longstanding issue that we're trying to figure out. So we're eager to meet with the city of Durham on this. We have had projects similar to this that cross, that end up where DOT builds a project and sidewalks end up partially in the city and partially out of the city. In my experience, those have all been maintained by the city through a municipal agreement. So that's maybe the precedent that we have. Now, I understand the city doesn't, maybe changing their position, but it does leave spot because our attorneys say that we do not have the authority. So, and like as, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. From DOT, municipalities do have the authority to maintain sidewalk in their ETJs. But the city does not have an ETJ. You know, technically, we have this urban growth boundary, which essentially is.
No, legally, it's
like-
not the same thing.
Well, I know it's not legally the same thing, but essentially we're applying the same development, like, kind of requirements there, as if, because of the desire, I know it's not the same thing, but like, right, it's because of the desire to have continuity of things like this, like sidewalk facilities. So.
Yeah,
Anyway, the point being, Durham County is eager to have the conversation with the city about this. I don't think we're gonna solve it at this meeting. Because it affects this project, and I can think of hopefully other projects where this is gonna be a relevant issue.
But to answer
In the
Lindsay's,
county.
to answer Lindsay's question, the city could maintain sidewalk, could enter a third-party agreement to maintain sidewalk outside the jurisdiction. We do have authority to annex NCDOT right of way for this express purpose. But we need certain folks at the city of Durham to agree.
Right, and I'm certainly not one of those. Upper brass, I was just
Yep, so that's a possibility we can.
thinking about, yeah, thank you.
I guess, just to make sure I have the context on this conversation, this project as proposed still does not construct the sidewalk, correct?
It
does.
does.
It does.
It does. But DOT won't construct it unless there's somebody that agrees to maintain it. Discussions.
But
Okay.
the current round of funding is just for right of way
And just for DOT's construction.
and design, yeah.
Right, yeah, design, yeah, so that is a discussion we can have later when the actual construction, but we'll wanna, I think it'll be my understanding from the meeting we had previously, Eric, was that, and Lindsay, is that they're planning on designing it for sidewalk along the entire thing, and potentially for a multi-use path instead, which would be our preference.
With a set aside, like with space in the right of way for the construction to come later, and we were asking for that. Asking to figure out how to do that.
Can we set it, can we set it contingent on it being designed with a multi-use path rather than a sidewalk, so it accommodates cyclists and pedestrians?
I don't think we can direct NCDOT. I mean, we can ask NCDOT.
Okay.
What I
Yeah.
heard him say in our meeting, although Matt, I don't think is online, maybe he is. What I heard Matt say was the TPO board can request a 10-foot multi-use path. And so when they take action approving our call for projects, that might be a good time for them to make that request.
Sounds good.
As a major funder of that project.
As a follow-up. So was this originally on the Durham County or city plan as a priority, or is this coming forward in large part because of the project development?
I can't remember, I wasn't around for the history of this.
I think it's project development.
I'm just wondering about precedent.
I mean, it's kind of all of the above.
And I guess I would refer back, DOT's submittal that they put in for this initial project doesn't have description of a sidewalk as a thing they would build, and we'd make the agreement off of their submission, no?
So these have also been modified throughout the call. It's not until the board has been sent.
Okay.
Yeah, we can include in the motion, I guess, that one have a multi-use path. And yeah, that sounds good.
I think the town of Chapel Hill's stance, based on the presentation we got last week, just kind of confirmed that this is more of a roadway project than a bike ped project. we don't think it's eligible and probably shouldn't have been included in the list to begin with. Not sure how others feel about that, but I think we should probably, at the very least, clarify what are eligible projects and who can submit projects going forward in the policy.
So under our current policy, DOT is eligible to submit projects. And projects that include a significant safety component, I think those are the exact words, are eligible.
And what is the specific safety component identified in this project?
Can you speak to the project details?
I can't recall exact details that Matt shared in the presentation that he did, but he did provide several statistics on the crash in that area.
It's basically removing the left turns. I understand the project.
And there's like modeling has been done that demonstrates that there will be a significant benefit.
Yes,
I wasn't here for that
That would be a
presentation.
countermeasure to apply for an intersection like this. It does also have significant air quality benefits, according to the evaluation our staff did. And at one corner of the intersection is where the city-county new paratransit bump is slated to go. So definitely trying to straighten out traffic and congestion and improve safety and all of the buses that are taking people all over Durham County or coming and going will be helpful.
I guess I would say for the air quality, the other way to frame that, as DOT does in their application, is they have very few funding sources for future congestion mitigation. And I still feel like that congestion mitigation, whether framed as air quality or congestion, still isn't really in alignment with with our federal funding policy.
I brought it up because it's likely during construction that would be a funding source the department could leverage because of that.
Is the safety specifically for roadway projects or for non-roadway projects? The safety aspect. I thought it was all for non-roadway, even the safety in the policy.
It doesn't specify.
Remember when we drafted that, it was intentionally written that way, so that roadway projects could be submitted for this funding source if a primary purpose was for safety. In other words, then it opens this up as a source to implement the safety plan, action plan that you just adopted.
It sounds like there needs to be clarity on what is. It sounds like there's not real clarity on what a roadway project is versus what, and what warrants a safety project. Like, that seems like it needs further, there sounds like there's a lot of conversation around inconsistencies.
We will be updating our federal funding policy with our grant agreement we just got in place for our prioritization pilot program process, whatever the 4 Ps stand for, grant that I'm going to talk about during our lab presentation. So we can wordsmith away once we get into that project.
So, sorry, I just want to make sure I'm 100% clear because the way that we read the funding policy is not consistent with what you're saying. So I just want to make sure that you're saying that this project has a non-roadway component that makes it eligible through the safety, or you're saying that this is a roadway project where the benefit that makes it eligible is because it's a safety and air quality?
The second part.
Okay, so our reading of the policy, and maybe this is why we need to go back and make sure we clarify the language, is that is not eligible. This project would still not be eligible because it is a roadway project, and that only the non-roadway projects would fall into that allowed category.
And I'm just throwing this out there. How could we ever deploy a safety project?
Well, that's why I think we need to change it. I agree. I'm saying I think we've maybe written ourselves into a corner and we should clarify it. But I do think it's, we should be careful to not approve something that is not consistent with the policy.
I can tell you when we drafted the policy 2019 or 21, I don't remember which one was.
21, I think.
The intention was to allow for roadway projects to submit for these funding sources if they showed a significant safety benefit and safety was either the primary or a primary purpose of the project. Thought we wrote that pretty well, but maybe we need to read it.
And is there like a list, like if you talk about bike ped projects, usually the jurisdiction has a bike ped plan that they pull from. So is there like a specific list that you could point to indicate it's a primary?
There is not, because
priority?
at the time we were submitting for the SS4A funding to be able to do the safety action plan, and the intent was that that would generate a list of projects for which we could apply.
It's on both roads on the high integrity network. There you go.
I mean, it is my understanding that this came because development was coming, there needed to be, like, there was capacity issues. But then when NCDOT started looking into it, right, there's also this railroad crossing.
Yeah, that's the big problem is the
turns
railroad.
that like conflict with each other, and they're like, well, we can't really solve that without solving this. And so it kind of became a bigger project that did more incorporate safety elements. And, you know, from what I understand about it, you know, by eliminating left turns across the railroad track, it will help. An issue that I anecdotally heard from people.
Yeah.
This is hazardous.
I mean, I went to Southern and grew up crossing that intersection, whether I was going to America or Neal or Southern, and it's always been problematic safety-wise. There's also, you can't really see it from Google Earth. There's a grade change on the one leg that is very problematic for visibility.
So it is, I understand it's a great, I do think it
I mean, I'm not arguing the merits of the project.
Yeah, I think I'll say I do still have some trouble saying that this is a project that focuses on safety when it was submitted with congestion in mind, and that it's addressing a documented safety concern. These roads are identified in the Vision Zero plan, but so is a large portion of the network. We are, if that's the justification, we're opening up a significant amount of roadway projects that DOT is eligible to apply for with these funds if we go that way. I think I'll just stay ahead of time. That's why I intend to vote no for including G conjunction.
And to that comment, I feel like from the county perspective, we aren't able to pursue certain projects like construction projects because we don't have funding to maintain roadways. So a lot of the times infrastructure getting built out in unincorporated areas is through development partnerships or through NCDOT. So just for representing what the jurisdiction I represent, I will be voting yes, because I want to be able to have an opportunity like this for our community to apply for projects via this funding. Otherwise, it would be limited just to the cities, really.
I'll go ahead and put the motion on the table just to make sure we have something to vote on. I'll move that we approve the federal funding policy with the removal of G conjunction and the inclusion of additional funding for Fayetteville Street. The number I don't have right in front of me, but the one that was sent over, the additional $1,210,860 for Fayetteville Street corridor.
Before you make that motion, would you be more comfortable if we made it contingent that the multi-use path is, designed with the project instead of sidewalk?
I would say personally, I don't think so. I'd prefer to have a vote on a version of this that does not include G conjunction.
It's only possible to maybe put on a little screen an area in Google Earth to show exactly where it is, because I'm just not seeing, I fully support in concept safety, and I fully support the benefit of multi-use path. I'm just looking at the location, unless I'm in a totally wrong location. I'm not seeing a place where there's a lot of origins and destinations. It feels like an isolated segment, so I'm just trying to get a sense of, am I in the wrong area or?
85.
Yeah, I see, it's right here, so what is there other than a couple quickie ones?
Well, there's nothing necessarily in the immediate area, but you've got some industrial uses up here. And you've got more and more housing coming in.
So
Down
it's-
here and up here. So we're doing a lot of development residential building.
Where did the multi-use path go? I mean, multi-use path is so expensive.
The crash reduction factor for
But it's just
replacing
one
direct
little
left turn
section.
It's this section. It's
1.6, which would be
basically
40%, 44% reduction.
If that's.
I honestly, like,
I'm
I'm like not
yeah.
even at the point where I'm like need to or feel like I have no, at this point in time, like real position on like the merits of the project. My issue is really the language of the policy and making sure that we all agree that it says the same thing, because it feels like right now there is some confusion, and it's like the Supreme Court interpreting a law. Like, I feel like we're kind of at that point where it's like we need to, figure out. It's not, it's okay that it is confusing, but I would prefer to clarify it so that we're not, one, opening a door to a precedent that is not the intent or spirit of the policy.
I think Aaron spoke to the spirit of the policy already.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
but you were
I
talking
think
about
so.
something in 2019. The policy we're looking at is a new one from 2026. Like, quite frankly, like that,
Didn't update that.
The one that was on the January 13th, 2026 agenda?
that is the one we're talking about, right?
Yes, but it was an update to the one that was drafted in 21. So some of the language, most of the language stayed the same.
Most of the language did stay the same. We did have the change in language that did explicitly state non-motor vehicle safety projects. What was the?
It says non-roadway safety projects are eligible, but only for projects that have a documented safety concern. And then it explicitly says not for roadway projects prior to that.
Yeah, and
which is a change from safety projects are eligible in 20.
Yeah.
21 or
yeah.
whatever the previous version.
And if we come back and revise the policy to allow for these roadway safety projects, would be supportive of that if we have some caps and make sure that these projects don't outcompete ours if DOT is applying for them, that we continue to preserve this source of bike ped funding. But as it stands, I think I'll restate my motion to approve this without the G conjunction if I have a second.
I'll second. And I have another question about a different project too when we're ready to go.
So can you restate your whole motion? Sorry.
Sure. I'll move to recommend to the board the recommended RFF funding projects with the removal of the G conjunction intersection improvements and the addition of $1.2 million for the Fayetteville Street corridor.
And then you seconded it.
I seconded, but yeah, I do have another question about a different project.
That's related to the same motion or same?
Related to RFF, but not related to the motion, but adopting it, yes.
So we're just removing that funding, we're not reallocating it towards anything in that motion?
Yeah, I'm not asking to figure out where we need to put the money. It is also oversubscribed, so the plan would still remain oversubscribed if we took out G conjunction.
I don't think so, but I just want to clarify something with them.
Okay, go ahead and we'll pause the vote for a second.
Can you bring up the list of, I think it was existing projects, Philmon, that are funded? There was BL 0101 Cameron Ave. In the report, it says it's a fully funded project, but on the table here, it's about 400,000 less in the federal column than what we requested.
So that was just be a discrepancy, just due to error. It's fully funded in terms of this call, in terms of what you asked for, you see full.
So, well, we asked for 1.4 million. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but I think it says 1 million.
Yeah, that's how 1.2 million, but we'll go back and.
You said 1.2?
Yeah, that.
1.02.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yes, I had a similar question about the Durham to Roxbury Rail Trail, and I checked the submission and we requested 500,000 federal. But it was, I guess, interpreted as 500,000 total, you know, so I don't, yeah. And I had shared that number with NCDOT recently, the 500,000, so I wanted to check that and make sure. Make sure we can fully fund that.
Okay,
Sure, we have 100,000 and 26 we can push for.
So confirmation of two numbers, and I don't think that will affect the vote, but
May I ask a general question now about something in here, or do you want to go to the vote? It's in the presentation, that's just.
Sure, go ahead.
Philmon, will you go back to the engagement slide that you put up? So was there just engagement on this one NCDOT project?
No, all projects were included in the book we put out. One of our cut members has been working with the community, and so that was an opportunity that popped up with A by us.
To do the NCDOT project or all the projects? I thought you said that the NCDOT project had a special public comment session or something.
So we'll make this.
Hi, everyone. This is Monet Moore, Principal Planner with Triangle West TPO. So what you see in the presentation presented by Philmon, we did attend a neighborhood association meeting with the Merritt Moore community where we did discuss the Cheek Junction project that's in the call for projects as a part of our overarching public comment period. And so that's what you were able to see within the previous slide.
Okay. I guess I'm a little concerned, like if it goes to the board and it says we had support for this, but it's the only project that had that was the focus of this particular thing, then it's not really a general survey of all the projects. It's just saying, here's one project, what do you think? Like, I don't know. I think that needs context around it, that's all. I see the value in doing it. I just think it needs context if brought to the board.
Thank you. We can add that additional context, but we do want to be clear that we did create a public comment period for all communities to participate in, but based upon the rapport and relationship that we have with Merritt Moore, we thought it was necessary for us to present this information to them in order to maintain that relationship.
So to clarify, there are two kind of initiatives. One where the community, the assets come out to talk about the project. Top one with public input include all projects.
Yeah.
Just to bring up another point about Cheek Junction, the city and county bike walk plan has identified sidewalks, side path on Cheek Road as a priority project just to the west of this, and or just to the west. And I would imagine, should this project move forward, there would be a rationale to connect it to that future sidewalk there. So it would not be kind of an isolated facility in the future, most likely.
That's not one that would connect to the, someone mentioned the elementary school.
Yeah, it would.
That would connect to the
Basically, it goes like to here.
And it would tie
then
in front of the
there and
community
then,
garden.
you know, kind of building.
Are we voting?
So we have a motion, we have a second.
Can we just clarify the motion one last
Yeah,
time?
yes. So, we'll repeat it one more time,
Sure.
Chris.
The motion is to recommend that the board approve the slate of projects with the removal of the Cheek Junction project and the addition of $1.2 million to the Fayetteville Street Corridor project.
Well, thank you. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
That's a lot.
We should go roll call.
We really want to answer both of those.
Yeah. You should do a voice vote.
Roll call.
Roll call. One by one. Yeah.
Okay, let's start. I guess everyone who's a voting member, raise your hand real quick. Okay, so let's start in the back.
May I offer a friendly amendment before we vote?
Yeah.
What if we remove that project from consideration for the slate? But not reallocate the funding, and then have the conversation about the policy to get clarity. And then depending on that, there would be the opportunity to go back and vote on this project and to include it.
I'll say, I think the motion as it stands does not reallocate the Cheek Conjunction funding. The Fayetteville Street one was going to happen either way. I think City of Durham requested that no matter what we do on Cheek Conjunction, this would take the Cheek Conjunction funding and not allocate it to anything else.
Okay. Thank you for that.
So you're saying you want to have a revised motion to see if we can table that project and have a separate conversation about whether it should be allowed?
I think,
You've got a
I'd
motion,
say,
you have to do it.
yes, I'd say the motion, no friendly, I would decline the friendly amendment. Let's hold it.
Okay, so.
Do you need help?
Yeah.
All right, do you have the roster? Thank you.
Yeah, you can check.
We have it back here. All right, Eric.
So using this pause to get clarity. So without accepting the friendly amendment, you don't prevent my suggestion to occur because in your point of view, it's not needed. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
So we're voting on subtracting out, not including the Cheek Junction Road project and including the project. Okay, the additional Fayetteville money. So.
Start here and then go down.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Ben?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
No.
Becca?
Yes.
Aaron?
No.
Curtis?
No.
John?
No.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Oh. Josh Barrett?
Stephanie.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Sarah?
No.
Matt?
No.
Julie?
No.
That's not here.
No one else?
Keelson.
David?
No.
I think Toya, are you sitting in maybe for Division 7? She said no.
No, I am sitting in for the yes.
Yeah, Toya.
Colleen, can we clarify Toya's vote, please?
Yeah.
She's sitting in for
Division
Division
7.
Yeah, you said you asked me if I was sitting in for Division 7, and I
Yes.
said yes.
Okay.
She is sitting in for Division 7,
you
but she
voted
voted no.
Voted no, okay.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Toya there.
And then Caroline?
I'm voting no because I think it's inconsistent with the policy as written.
Then that's
You're
a
voting
yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, voting yes. I have no idea
And then Meg?
Yes, like Caroline, I'm concerned about the inconsistency with the policy and the watershed that this is going to bring for road projects in the future. So I'm voting yes. As
Yeah.
much as I know this is an important project.
My vote is a yes. So that leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 yeses. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 no's.
Do we have anyone who didn't vote, who didn't get?
I did
We should ask her.
I will say, I did make the motion. I don't believe I was asked on the vote. I just thought that was
Josh
no,
Newton
or I didn't.
He's sitting in for Bergen.
I am sitting in for Bergen.
Oh, shoot.
So that is a
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And that brings us.
Yes.
Missing a vote over
Missing
here.
a vote, RTP.
Oh, yeah, and Annie.
Oh, sorry, Annie.
Okay.
You're the tiebreaker.
Wait,
Well, it could go
that's
back to a tie.
Yeah.
10 yeses and what?
9 no's.
We were gonna vote no.
Okay, so
Back
10,
to
10
tie.
again.
Back to time.
Failed.
It does
So
fail.
that means the people who voted against it get to make a substitute motion.
Yes.
And I would make a substitute motion that we approve this with the addition to the Fayetteville project and with with the two conjunction, and the modifications that you're injecting. And I think we should raise this to the MPO board, that this was a split vote and that our guidance that they approved is maybe vague and that there's a desire to clarify, this issue, right? And just ask their feedback, I guess, on the clarification, and they can direct us to then, revise policy, correct it, whatever they want. But to include it, for now. Yes.
I just wanted to comment that, I really appreciate the broad discussion, but please remember that every decision that you recommend that it goes to the MPO board is a standalone decision. You can choose to look back on it collectively, but just because you pass something or deny something now doesn't mean you have to do the same thing should a similar question come forward later.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not up on the procedures.
So, I mean, I guess.
Was there a second?
I guess just to make sure I'm clear, I feel like it would help us, be efficient and not have contention if we clarify the policy.
I agree.
So I think, yeah, that is, even though we're not bound to it, I think it would be a good idea. Do that.
I'll second the motion.
Exactly what the motion is.
Yeah.
One more time, Ellen.
That was a lot of words. Okay, to approve the slate of projects with the additional funding for the Fayetteville project, period. But then ask the, what's the right thing? Ask the board if they would raise this issue with the board and ask their input on how the policy should be clarified in the future.
So let them know that there was a split vote.
Yes.
Get clarification. Let them make the final decision on that. Okay.
Well, we're recommending this, but I think just to figure out how to clarify the policy, we should get some of their guidance before we just go ahead and do it.
Ellen, is it critical that asking for that clarity be part of the motion, or can that just be something that we ask for separate from the motion?
It can be separate. I mean, if it
But you
want it
wanted,
to be a clean.
you wanted to convey that there was a
Yes.
split still, right, to the board, yeah?
Yes.
I say keeping that in the motion would at least help me.
I think keeping that in motion should be moved, yeah. Since it was dead split even. So let's keep that language in the motion.
Eric, you'll be able to explain to the MPO board the discussion, okay? So they'll understand.
Sure. All right, looking for a second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes.
You want to vote?
I don't think that I voted no because I don't believe we should be asking the board to clarify the policy. I think we should be making a recommendation as a technical committee on what the policy should be.
Okay, thank you. One, doesn't pass.
Sorry, I thought you were gonna do another roll call vote.
No.
I didn't voice a vote. I am also voting no based on the four corners of the policy.
Okay.
That happened,
Why don't we do a roll call?
a little too fast.
Yeah.
Putting you to work today, Eric.
This will be a lot more efficient now that everyone's name. So Eric is gonna be a yes. Caroline?
No.
No. Josh, Chapel Hill, Josh.
I'll vote no, it's on the list.
Ben,
No.
Tina, Becca,
No.
Ellen,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Ton,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Josh, Barrett,
Yes.
Stephanie,
No.
Sarah,
No.
Matt,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Latoya,
Yes.
Meg,
So now we have a policy that we're going to apply once and potentially change later and exclude other projects, so I have to vote no now.
Ann.
Yes.
Okay, so
This was a misread. Staff should have never put us in this situation.
12 and 8 should be.
yeah, that's right. Okay, we have 12 yeses and 8 nos, so that passes with a split decision. Thank you.
Tell me you're not off the hook yet.
That brings us to, I don't know if we can vote on this item either now.
That was changed to align with whatever the goal of three patterns.
Okay, that brings us to TIP accelerated amendment number 5.
Yeah, so typically this would be on our consent agenda, but doing that with literally the cart from the horse, you guys need to approve our critical recommendations. And so this document includes the recommendations, but aside from that, there is the RGP feasibility study that will be kicking off soon, so that we and there is a syndrome project that will be released to support for the LC13. And so just going to change the DC action to just adopt the unified, making the same changes that were made to the federal recommendations.
Any comments, questions? Looking for a motion.
So.
Second.
Moved by Aaron, seconded by Ellen, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously, thank you. Item 13, P9 express design recommendation. That's you again.
We were gonna get him a chair up there today. He said he didn't need it.
All right, so we're now on the second round of our second go through a better background on what they are. Institute has the to be more quickly constrained and also use more accurate cost estimates. So that's where this process came about. Here is what we call spot schedule. I'm going to see this often, but they are where we are, just at the middle of the programming for state reporting that is finished. So now we're getting into the sorry, getting these two, not open points, that's no there. Right now we're just starting our design. So the 3 green lines show our 3 deadlines for right now we're under 4, 5, and 6. And so number 7, 8, and 9 is reflected in the place. As far as the process, so the regulatory allocated these submissions, we have 9 submit business info. So they're divided into 3 different rounds. We did our first submissions this past fall. Here we are, second. And each round is approved by our board, and we'll go express 9. As far as how we selected the projects for this round is a bit different from last one, because we now have a adopted proposal methodology guidance. So the first thing we did is reviewed our current submissions with PA, just to start with those. We then add in other highway projects from the latest TP. And one fascinating how we scored and ranked those according to those with methodology. And from there, the PC discussed any deviations and priorities that we see with these lists. And so here are the ones that were considered. I won't read through them all. A nice map here as well. But here's first happy we had to follow through in our meeting. And the other half of the project, mostly is from the NTP. And from the discussion, we landed on these two projects to submit for this. We've got some recommendations that go through the process.
Any comments, questions, concerns?
Can you show the projects again?
They're all in Durham.
For this round, probably not next round.
They were all in Durham last time too.
They probably won't all be in Durham for the third round. But I don't think any of them will be in Durham for the third.
You guys are the only ones with a lot of highway projects.
One more.
Yes, with ones we can.
One more down.
Did you have questions?
No, I thought I saw something different in the agenda attachment, so I was just making sure what they were.
Okay, thanks. Looking for a motion.
I'll move.
Moved by
Second.
Ellen, second by Caroline, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And we'll put an extra second this time.
Yeah. Gotta pause.
Passes unanimously.
Is this me?
Yeah.
No,
it
that's
says
you
film
still.
on.
Still filming.
Local
I'll do
input,
this back
point
then.
allocation, and project ranking for spot 8.0.
All right, so still on the topic of spot, we're now going to talk about methodology of point allocation rather. So this presentation, I'm going to again go over schedule really quick, as well as the scoring process of what the score entails of. I'm going to do a bit of the background of methodology and outline criteria, and also going through what we're doing now, what comes next, and what the post action will be. So, example. We're right there, entering into the whole input point assignment period. It does end in August. And just a reminder, one thing that we reviewed on the last meeting was to allocate both the regional and division points at this time. We have not yet decided on how flex is needed. The recommendation once that's allocated. So for the scoring process, so first, statewide mobility funds are taken off the top in their program. These are scored with 100% would be quantitative scores. Now comes the part where our input is required, ours as well as the divisions. So for these next two categories, regional impacts, the quantitative score counts for 70%, and then whatever input points we suggest will account for the 30%. And likewise, good background on our methodology. Here is the table that really says what we're doing. Similar to what we last policy, only a couple of changes that we did are highlighted in red. Social utilizing project, we utilize our high engine network from the safety plan. And additionally, with a new environmental justice report that we had, we were able to use the information from that, using the transportation strategy index, that was in that report to the spreadsheet as well. So as far as allocating points, we did set these targets in our methodology. We're not obligated to reach each of those exactly. There are multiple suggestions based off of how the TPO is divided. And so if need be, we can get into these sections in reviews. That's it. A couple examples of reasons we would do so. Just are the scores. Now the scores are here. Just in light of local priorities or with what we hear back when we pull. All right, current steps. So how does the speed release the score, and now the scores have been released. So now we can actually assign the points to the projects based off the score and how it's scored based off our methodology. From there, we plan to follow the TC just to finalize the actual point allocations before closing the board and before public comment. On that note, I'm going to bring your attention to everyone here on it. You know, hold the meeting or just handle this through email and comments. You can send out our recommendation to them and come to the comments instead, as opposed to shorting together.
You mean instead of like voting on something that we don't see right now?
Well, the vote would be to vote if there are key decides at this meeting. And so I'm asking if you actually want to meet together one time to discuss it, or if it could also be okay if we send out an email and everyone's going to turn comments to us with their preference.
Okay, so you have scores according to our methodology, and now, but what I guess I don't see is like the assignment of points, right? So, but the policy pretty much dictates what that is going to be, or is there discretion?
It gives conversation, but with deviations, we can simply modify it how we like.
There are a lot of ties if you look through the spreadsheet, and we just, and I think mentioned at the top of this presentation, we got the scores from DOT like Thursday afternoon. So we have not gone through and assigned points to all the projects yet, but we will be taking a look at the red line since we know funding availability now as well. And we can prepare that documentation for you all to look at prior to this going to the MPO board as a recommendation for release for public comment. So in Region C, which includes Divisions 5 and 6, there's $551 million. In Region D, which includes Divisions 7 and 9, there's $236 million. Region E, which includes Divisions 8 and 10, there's $246 million. At the division level, in Division 5, there is $125 million. In Division 7, there is $106 million. And Division 8 has a negative balance at $21 million. Sorry, guys. Yeah. The funding availability that was released confirmed our suspicions that there's not a lot of funding available this year for SPOT. The sheet that was sent out says these values are as of May 28th and will change. So I don't think we can expect additional funding coming through. But as I mentioned, we'll go through we are still working through all the SPOT scores, and we'll look at the red line for our regions and for our divisions and make a draft recommendation for assignment to help break the ties with the local input point methodology assignment. So we can send that out to you guys over email, Or we can have another meeting, but it needs to happen before Tuesday, which is when we send out the board agenda.
Do you need to have an official TC recommendation? Because my thoughts are, given the number of points being a lot, like 2,000, that's about 20 projects.
Right.
And given that only maybe 3 or 4 are gonna be actually funded, I don't know that we need to meet if there's not gonna be that much to
I
talk
think that
about.
makes sense, yeah.
So I'm thinking it can maybe be resolved via email, but I don't know if you needed an official TC recommendation.
We would like a TC recommendation because we need to release this for public comment this month in order to meet, lost all your minutes. In order to meet the DOT deadline, they need our local input point assignment by August. And so we'll want to release it for at least 30 days.
So do you need that local input points prior to the board meeting this month so that they can authorize release of the actual?
We'd like to
allocation?
release a draft, yeah.
Okay. So you need you need to turn something around the next, like, by the end of the week. Okay.
If we were to meet, it would be Monday or Tuesday.
If you were to.
We'd
do
like
it-
to meet Monday. Tuesday is gonna be too tight.
If you were to do it via email, then how could that end up being an official recommendation? You couldn't
No.
really do that.
Can't do that. That's good.
You have to have a meeting.
Okay, I guess we
Okay.
have to do a special meeting then, I guess.
It'll be a quick one though. We'll
Yeah.
try and make sure we have everything to you guys with enough time to look at it.
Okay.
Virtual?
Yes, virtual.
And this would just be for a draft list, and then we'd come back and we could change it the following meeting, so.
Yeah, we change it. We'd make a full recommendation in August.
That's right. Once we have the public comments back.
Right, okay.
So can we have a meeting or can we have a vote today to defer to NPO staff?
You could also do that,
Policy?
yeah.
We've also deferred to a subcommittee of PC to decisions.
I'm personally fine with either way, as long as, I presume that, like, what's important to me is that the draft list include all of the projects that have a potential to get funded, right? And I think to the point earlier, we're gonna have more points than that, so. We shouldn't waste a lot of time or effort debating.
Since this is a release for public comment too, like, we'll have a chance to change things later, right?
I mean, it would be good to not change things too much from what we submit to the public and what gets approved unless it's at, because of public comment for transparency reasons. But yes, you can always, it's at your discretion to change your recommendations.
Can I make a comment? Even though the amount of funding available may not be as large as some, previous rounds of prioritization, it's still pretty substantial. And from my own perspective, I thought the last time we did this in P7, the meeting was helpful. For what it's worth.
Well, the divisions will each be making their own recommendations for local input points in addition to ours. So it, might be helpful for them to hear the thinking from you all, as David mentioned.
I do have one question on the material rather than the process, once we got time.
Sorry.
I have one thing on the material rather than the process.
You want to do that?
Okay.
Sounds like a quick meeting, what happened then, so it's going to take just a moment. Get your
Got full.
ability-
Look at this guy.
This is between now and Monday?
Yes.
Someone came prepared.
New features in PowerPoint.
Oh, cool.
I do just have one thing. I think I get it. Filtering this spreadsheet is tough. I don't see the Chapel Hill citywide signal system, which is in spot and does score pretty highly, but it's not in the list of projects eligible for local input points. We want to make sure that's there.
Got funded.
It didn't hit statewide. It's decent on regional, and we want to have a chance to put some regional on it.
Wasn't it funded in the back end last time?
I thought it was funded last round, but
They make us do this.
we will check that. We'll make sure citywide
Can you
signal
do
system.
follow-up for those of us just getting a nice photograph?
I think that might have been a separate signal system that was funded last time.
Okay.
But not totally sure.
So we're voting at the special meeting on this, is that right?
This is the first time we're trying this, so if it's not working, we can work out the kinks. Yeah.
Colleen, did you say you don't want us to vote on Tuesday?
I mean, if you're gonna vote with our recommendation, that's fine. We try to get the package out on Tuesday, so
Yeah.
hopefully we're not changing too many other things. Maybe it's fine.
Yes, since we're meeting in person, we'll do it.
Okay,
Mhm.
awesome, thank you. That it then?
Any other questions?
So the motion would be to let this subcommittee decide?
Yeah. Yeah, we're tabling this item, right? We made a motion to table it?
Yes.
Okay.
You do.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to allow the subcommittee to make a motion for the recommendation for the TPO board. Oh my God, this meeting is killing me.
Second.
Thank you, Josh. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass unanimously. Thank you.
Yeah, you're doing great. We only have one more
I have
hour.
a sixth
so.
plan. Monet. I hope not, jeez.
only have one more hour.
Yeah,
Okay.
so one of them got moved, I think around. That's okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Monet Moore. I'm a principal planner with Triangle West TPO. And today I will be presenting on the Title VI plan, the 2026 version. And we are bringing this back. The action is going to be a recommendation for approval by our TPO board or our TPO board. This is a presentation that should be very familiar because we brought it to you previously for public comment. And so today we're just going to be walking through mostly the contents of the Title VI plan that is predetermined by North Carolina Department of Transportation. And so within the Title VI plan, the basic things that you will see will include assurances and policies, staffing and organization for our organization, data collection and analysis and reporting. You'll also see some tie-ins to our related plans, which includes our recently adopted environmental justice report, the limited English proficiency plan, or what we now refer to as our language access plan, public involvement or public participation plan, and then most importantly, our procedures that include external discrimination complaint procedures, compliance and enforcement, and then also training that we receive as staff. And so just a little bit of background, this is required as a part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, that for any organization that receives any sort of federal funds, they cannot discriminate against protected classes on the grounds of race, color, national origin. And national origin also includes language, and that's why it includes limited English proficiency. In 2019 was the last time we adopted a Title VI plan, and then we are updating this plan in 2026. So again, you have probably seen this floating around in some of our meeting rooms. This is just our policy statement and assurances, assuring that we abide by that Title VI Act of 1964, and it also lists the Title VI coordinator. So if there are any concerns or any questions, people can contact our organization. In addition to that, the template or NCDOT for a Title VI plan requires that we have an organization chart, and in that organizational chart, it also includes where the Title VI coordinator is within the organization and who they are. So you'll see a little asterisk next to my name that indicates that I'm the Title VI coordinator for our TPO. So our related plan, starting off with the public participation plan, we adopted this last year in 2025, and this was the plan where we spoke about our goals and aspirations as it relates to public participation. This was one of the first documents that we were able to put in plain language, but it serves as a social contract between us and the public and how we will interact, how we will engage, how we will inform. The second plan that you see listed here is the language access plan. We also adopted this in 2025. This was an extension of some of the work where we were able to identify communities within our boundaries that speak languages other than English as their first language. The two languages that we were able to identify is our Spanish-speaking population and then also our Mandarin-speaking population, and going along with that, Cantonese. And then lastly, we have our environmental justice report that was updated and adopted earlier this year that talks about the impacts of our planning efforts on historically marginalized communities and those federally protected classes. So lastly, we'll get into our procedures. This details our external complaints procedures. These are procedures that people or general public members can follow if there is any sort of incident. People have within 180 days to support an incident either to our organization, to the Federal Highway Administration, NCDOT, if there's any sort of grievance or compliance or issue of compliance that comes about. And then this also details our procedures that we follow internally in order to adhere to these procedures and make sure that that grievance is addressed appropriately. And so again, as it relates to compliance and enforcement, these are the things that we do internally to ensure that we are staying in compliance. So that includes periodic Title VI training for all of our staff, address any Title VI issues at staff meetings, participate or cooperate during compliance reviews conducted by NCDOT, which usually takes place about every 3 years. We also have inform and monitor any consultants or contractors, which all of our consultants and contractors will see our Title VI assurances and any sort of agreement that they enter in with us. And then lastly, customize public outreach according to the situation or community, and that relates particularly to what the federal government refers to as federally protected classes, again, race, national origin, language. And so with that, we get to today's action, which is to recommend for adoption the Title VI plan for 2026. And then I'll take any questions if you all have them.
Any questions? Looking for a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Aaron. Moved by Aaron.
Second.
Second by Lindsay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.
With that, we're on to Triangle Bikeway East Design Project.
I am going to introduce this item and turn it over to Kara Campo. You all should hopefully remember we last presented to you all on Triangle Bikeway in March. At that meeting, Campo shared that they were going to come back to the TCN board in June to seek an endorsement on the 30% design as part of the Triangle Bikeway project. As a reminder, Campo's project of 14 miles includes 4 miles that are in our area, in their recent Triangle Park. So since a portion of the design Campo's developing includes Triangle West, and to ensure regional coordination, continues to move forward and they'll be presenting their signs and seeking an endorsement. So with that, I will turn it over to Kara.
Introduction, thank you, Dennis. Very low. So great to be back with you all today. I'm going to go over a brief project status update. I'm going to go over the alternatives analysis leading into the technical recommendation, which is an attachment to the agenda today. And then we'll be asking for recommendation on endorsement of these documents, which will be forward into 30%. So just as a reminder, we kind of kicked off the preliminary design for the eastern portion of the project, running from RTP to Raleigh. And so with that, surveying activities have almost concluded, right back in wrap up as we finish up this final selection. And alternative analysis has been underway, including the site visits, playback at the beginning, through to the traffic analysis and feasibility evaluation, as well as the stakeholder and public engagement in the center. We're also making some movement on the related activities, and so we're anticipating
having a community draft document this summer. And then continuing project coordination with the ongoing various capital projects adjacent to the corridor. So our next steps are here towards the energy alternatives analysis. We're looking at the alternative for each of the different key areas where we make connections to the rest of the existing regional network. And then from the recommendations today, for the final alignment, we then develop the treatments for those designs further to then complete 30% design anticipated in early 2027. So I'm going to give a brief overview of what went on in the alternative analysis. In the fall of 2025, the concept plan was developed for each of those 4 key areas up on the screen. In December and January, we met with the various stakeholders for each of those strategic areas, which included transit providers, state parks, RDU, Ontario Authority, Lakestone, etc. We were able to go in and gather feedback from those groups' preferences. We then took these alternative alignments out to the public with a survey asking folks where they want to go, where they want to connect to using the Tri-County Bikeway. Other related questions for open comments. That report is now up on the website for perusal. At your interest, we just presented on those results at the last TPO meetings last month. And then from there, we were able to look at that information with the technical and leadership committee of the eastern portion of the project to look over the methodology of the evaluation of the alternatives to one another. We were able to create a tool, which you'll get to see today. And then we were able to pull everyone back together to look at the results and provide that consensus we made on the preferred alternative alignments for each of the sections. So I'm trying to walk through this. At a high level, methodology included qualitative and quantitative factors for each of these key things that we looked at in terms of comparing different alternatives to one another, as well as incorporating some of the stakeholder and feedback that we received. They each were assigned a grade, a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being highly unfavorable, 5 being highly favorable, and then components weights for 5 as well. So this will start to make a little more sense as we walk through each section. So just to keep us moving, we'll start off on this western section, and we'll move to the very east. So we will start on the western terminus area. This is on C54. The alternative alignments that were developed looked at making the connection from the dark blue line up on the screen.
No laser.
Yeah. To the north side, or making the connection through the signalized intersection and moving along on the south end of NC54. So those are the 2 different alternative alignments that were developed. And then in terms of comparing the 2 different alternatives to one another, the technical recommendation developed looked at recommending alternative 2 because it provided a more convenient typical section about crossing at a signalized intersection and then continuing on for access through the high school area and avoiding the mid-block crossing on the north end. So alternative 2 was recommended for this alternative area. The next section, moving a little bit further along 54, was the most complicated area on the project. So these were 3 alternative alignments that were developed in this area to figure out how to best route the bikeway to make those connections and also really maximize user experience. So as we met with stakeholders, there were a couple of different constraints that were realized and talked through. And we actually were able, this is a success story, from these 3 different alternatives, we're able to kind of weigh some of the major constraints to come up with a hybrid option for that. And in that discussion, we were able to kind of look at what did the public say, where did they say they wanted to connect to, what were the types of connections that they wanted to make in that area. And we were able to utilize the existing alignments, but reorganize them in a different way. So taking a step back, looking at the start to end, what made the most sense to try to mitigate some of those concerns and work together to come up with this option here. So I've got red line up on the screen. And then in terms of how it scored relative to the other 2 alignments, so now in this situation, alternative 3 has some major constraints as it has been shown there, that green line section. And so we have scored that red line, the yellow line, and the blue line. And as it turns out, we start forward. The hybrid alternative did score out on top and also utilizes existing infrastructure and has a safe and enjoyable user experience overall, as well as provides connectivity to the triangle building in the area. All right. Moving further along, we're now in the middle of the bikeway in Wake County near Lake Crabtree. 2 alternatives were developed in this area. One creating a new bridge over I-40 and then hugging the north side of I-40. The other option, staying on the south side of I-40 and then making a connection back to the rest of the alignment where that existing bridge over Old Reed Creek exists today. And so the 2 of these alternatives were looked at and explored together. We also took a look at that public input just to make sure, are we still aligning with where folks saying they want to go? Are we making that connection easier? Are we considering how they're getting to these places? And then we additionally scored these 2 against each other. By and large, this was a very clear answer from the methodology developed that alternative 2 will be a strong recommendation for a more favorable connection to future wellness district, as well as a better more direct connection to the Black Creek Creamery system that would take you into Cary, Morrisville, and then had a significant cost difference in terms of building and construction in that area. And then last but not least, 2 alternative alignments were developed for the Wade Avenue area. So this is trying to get the connection through Edwards Mill to Wade Avenue on the other side to the final destination, the art museum. So this area, as you'll notice, goes beyond the extent of 40 Wade Avenue as closely. There's some grade out there and looking to make connections to the existing tunnel and greenway system that exists there today. So there is an option looking north, utilizing Edwards Mill Tunnel up on the north end, and then an option south, utilizing the connection there at the high school. Again, we looked at the public input that we were able to connect by some of the desired destinations, thinking about how to get people where they need to go, and thinking about their enjoyment of riding in the area, and then laid out the options, alternative 2 with the technical recommendation. Again, it maximizes the typical section, looking to the south side, as well as making that more direct connection to the new Raleigh Sports and Entertainment District as well. I think that is about the end of the presentation. So the ask today is for a recommendation for the executive board to endorse the alignments of the Triangle Bikeway so that we can carry forward to 30%. And if you have any questions?
Make a motion.
Thank you. Motion by Ellen, second by Ben, all in favor? Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you for.
All right, thank you all. We'll be back with more information as we go.
With that, we're on to our last action item, Triangle Mobility Hub will be the third alternative.
Got Catherine Miller here. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'll try to keep this brief, seeing as we're well into the meeting at this point. For those I haven't met yet, I'm Catherine Miller. I'm the Director of Real Estate and Transit-Oriented Development for Go Triangle. I joined about a year and a half ago now, and I'm the project manager for the Triangle Mobility Hub project. So I'm here today to present the locally preferred alternative, that's the LPA I will be referring to, the LPA recommendation for the Mobility Hub project. This is a really important milestone for us as part of any federally funded transportation projects such as this one. And the request I'll have today is for the TC to recommend that the board approve this as the LPA project. Great, so I will provide a very quick project overview, kind of summary of some of our recent public engagement efforts around this LPA, followed by kind of grounding us in the purpose and need for the project and the alternatives analysis that we conducted that informed the selection of this LPA before I walk through it. And all this information I think is included in your agenda packet, so again, I'll try to fly through this. So as hopefully all of you know, the Triangle Mobility Hub will be a new multimodal transportation hub in Research Triangle Park that will replace the current regional transit center right around the corner on Slater Road. It's the primary hub for all the regional bus services connecting Durham, Orange, and Wake counties. This project is really critical for doing these things you see here, improving speed and reliability of transit service, supporting multimodal connections, and providing for some new rider amenities as well. Here is a summary of our project scope. Again, this is all in your agenda packet, but essentially we're relocating and expanding the capacity of the current regional transit center. We'll also be creating some new amenities that we can't build over there, such as an indoor conditioned waiting area for our riders, more comfortable facilities for our operators and our customer service staff as well. And so this facility will be supporting both current service and future service expansion, including all those routes that you see here on the screen. And we expect to grow service this facility, consistent with adopted county transit plans. Schedule-wise, we're currently wrapping up preliminary design and engineering this summer. We anticipate breaking ground hopefully in late 2027 and completing the project and opening for revenue service by early 2030. As I mentioned, it's a federally funded project, so we're also going through the NEPA environmental review process as well. So we're currently coordinating with all those resource agencies, preparing all of our documentation to submit that to FTA for review this summer. This is a documented categorical exclusion. All right, on the funding side, so here's just a summary of our committed funding sources. Just want to point out, it includes $5.5 million of federal funding flexed via Triangle West TPO. We really appreciate that contribution to the capital stack. The project is about 54% federally funded. And I'll also note, one of the more recent additions to this is that federal fiscal year 26 appropriation that we secured through the federal budget process. So really excited about that extra $2 million to support the project. All right, so again, I'll share about some of our public engagement efforts that we've been doing on this project, including our recent campaign all about this LPA recommendation, this site. So our initial kind of outreach to the public dates all the way back to our RTC relocation study, 2019-2020. Since then, we've been coordinating with technical stakeholders as we evaluate that preferred site and advance conceptual design plans. And so we circled back to the public this spring to share updates and solicit feedback on our proposed site for the mobility hubs, the site that you'll be seeing today. And I'll just note we're midway through a formal public comment period as well, just to capture any kind of remaining feedback ahead of the Campbell Executive Board meeting in a couple of weeks. And so all of these engagement activities basically result in this LPA recommendation that we share with regional decision-making bodies for approval, including the Campbell West Board, and submit all of this information as part of our federal environmental review process. So our recent engagement efforts included all those activities that you see there on the screen, including digital and in-person outreach to share information about the project and again solicit feedback about our plans to relocate the RTC to this site. All right, so we're finalizing our report about that engagement, but wanted to just preview some of those kind of top line results with you all. We really heard the top priorities for riders, for folks who filled out our survey. We're really in line with what we heard back in 2020 when we initially set out to relocate the RTC. And so those included covered boarding, restroom access, real-time arrival information, and seating as well. And overall, we got a lot of comments. There's strong support for the project and support for ensuring that it's really accessible to those everyday destinations around the region that folks want to get to. All right, so the purpose and need, that really sets the stage for everything we're doing with this project. It really grounds us in our planning and design process. The purpose here being to enhance regional connectivity and mobility. And the need for this project is really twofold. One, to support transit plan funded expansion of service, and two, to address a lot of the operational constraints we have at our current RTC. If you've ever ridden the bus there, lots of constraints there that we have to grapple with when we create a better location for our riders. All right, so a recap how we identified and evaluated alternatives for potential sites for this project. Again, all of this was conducted as part of our RTC relocation study. We did an existing conditions assessment, developed our criteria to search for a new site. We had an initial parcel search that yielded 113 potential sites for consideration. Those are whittled down over multiple rounds of screening, which yielded these three sort of final opportunity sites. For further evaluation. Those were all in RTP, kind of along the NC54 corridor. Those were Hub RTP, Park Point, and the site formerly known as Triangle Metro Center. And so we scored those three opportunity sites, plus we also scored the existing RTC as sort of our no-build alternative against a variety of weighted metrics that you see here. The site that scored the highest in our evaluation and that we deemed had the greatest potential for a public-private partnership to get this project off the ground was that TMC or Triangle Metro Center site. It's currently owned by the Research Triangle Foundation. This site was, I believe it was specified in our application for those RFF funds. And it's the one, we'll be proposing as our, So that brings us to the reason I'm here. Focus of the presentation is our LPA site itself. So here's kind of a context map showing where it's located. As I mentioned, it's on NC54 in RTP, specifically at the intersection of 54 and the railroad corridor. Great, so a lot of information I will not go through, but just for reference so that you have it. I will just note here that the site itself is undeveloped and the current zoning allows for us to build a mobility hub without having to go through the zoning process. All right, so as far as consideration of an LPA for something that's regionally significant, a multimodal hub such as this one, we really think about three different criteria. One is the location of the site. Two, the modes it can accommodate, and three, making sure it has adequate capacity to support all the programmatic requirements for those modes. So for this project, it was important that the LPA, number one, was kind of proximate to I-40 and to planned transit investments and things like bus rapid transit, the Triangle Bikeway that we just heard about, and future passenger rail, all of those being planned by others, but we want to make sure that we're supporting those connections. And again, this, by being proximate to all of these potential future modes, this site is consistent with the 2025 NTP and all those investments that are planned. In terms of the modes accommodated, relocating again what's present currently in BRTC, so bus and on-demand transit service, park and ride, and also first and last mile connections for riders via ride share paths as well. And again, we really want to be supporting those connections to future transit investments as well. And number 3, as far as adequate capacity, making sure that the site is big enough to support not only our conceptual program for the mobility hub, but also a future phase of transit-oriented development to really bring it there to this site to support our riders and even to grow ridership as well. So in terms of, where we head from here, so I will note that, in the past year, we've gotten our developer team on board so they can really vet the site and make sure, do all their due diligence to make sure that the site is going to work for the project and that all of our scope can be accommodated here, which they have. We also executed a partnership agreement with RTF, as I mentioned, the current landowner really kind of committing the site for the mobility hub. And so now we're in the process of presenting this to the TCCs and PO boards for approval. Go Triangle's board approved it back in April as well. And then as far as the next several months, so we'll really be refining our site layout and our cost estimates, getting through 30% design, supporting submitting NEPA documentation to FTA, as I mentioned. Once we have NEPA clearance, at that point we can pursue that right-of-way acquisition. And then develop that grant agreement with the FTA to obligate our base grant, which is a really big milestone for us. So those are all our next steps. I've just included here, again, some of the steps in this process with the LPA. I just want to note, again, we've got a comment period happening right now that's sort of one more additional opportunity for folks to weigh in. And then there'll be future, public engagement and future steps in the process as we get through NEPA and continue the design process as well. So I think with that, I'm happy to take any questions that folks have.
So the same site as the future passenger rail station?
Yes, so that's where it's contemplated to be, is right along the rail.
So are your 30% plans only in relation to the multimodal hub portion of that site, not the station portion?
That's right, yeah, station is being planned by others. Of course, as we're working through the site layout decisions, we're thinking about those connections. I mean, it's not designed yet. We don't know exactly where along the track it will be, what the requirements are for the station itself. But as far as how we're laying out the site and where we're siting it, even within the property, we're keeping that in mind. We want folks to be able to really easily connect over to rail wherever that platform ends up being situated.
Heather? Looking for a motion to recommend approval.
So moved.
Moved by Meg.
Second.
Second by Aaron, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously, thank you. That brings us to our info items. We have 2 biannual locally administered projects report. Colleen.
Right, I will go very fast because I see what time it is. And I know you guys have heard this before. What are locally administered projects? These are projects that are administered by you all, our member agencies, almost exclusively by Head and Transit, funded using federal funding with 20% non-federal match. DOT staff are our partners as they advise, approve, and oversee the expenditure of all of these funds. The original federal funding policy, 2021, so I had this fresh in my mind, most recently updated this year. As part of that policy, we are required to update the board on the status of each of those projects twice a year. In addition to the RFF, this also includes other projects that were funded through STI and SPOT. And if there's anything that can make this more useful or interesting, please let me know. These are typical project delivery steps: setup, design engineering, right-of-way phase, construction, and then closeout, which can take a long time. And these are the current kind of funding sources we have in the TIP that we're using to fund projects in our LAP program. Most of you are familiar with these, so I'm not going to go through them. We have 51 total projects in the LAP program right now. Harbor Road has 9, Chapel Hill has 12, although one of those is managed by DOT. Thank you, Division 7.
City of Durham has 21 projects, one of which was flexed to FTA. Finally, Chatham County has one, Orange County has one, Go Triangle has 5, RTP has 1, or RTF, I should say. And Durham County, which is actually being managed by DOT, has 1. This is a new chart. I was playing around with my charts. So I totaled up all the federal funding allocated to projects in our MPO area. Durham here in purple. We have approximately, let's see, I have it on here. Previous slide. Didn't have it. We have about $150 million in federal funding on projects in the TPO right now. And so you'll see on each of these slides, I put how much each agency has on their projects. So Carborough, their 9 projects, has $5.7 million in federal funding. We're seeing some progress. We've got a project under construction right now for Tina, and one being closed out. Chapel Hill, 12 projects, $22 million, and a little extra in federal funding. There's been a lot of progress on your projects since the last report in November. So thank you guys. Chatham County, 1 project, $213,000. Still setting this one up, but it's not funded till 27, so we're not worried about it. City of Durham, 21 projects, $106.8 million in federal funds, and we have quite a few under construction, and I know there's at least 3, maybe 4 that are in closeout and have been there for a while, so hopefully we can get those off the books soon. Durham County, that 1 project is $10.7 million. That's the Durham to Roxborough Rail Trail. And there was some additional funding being requested for this one to help finish up that right-of-way acquisition. That's all the projects. Go Triangle has 5 projects, $32 million in federal funding. This is not all from the MPO. I will add a big chunk of that is from the RAISE grant for the mobility hub. So, but they are all moving forward, and we've definitely seen some progress since the November report. So got one closing out as well, which is great. Orange County, 1 project, $360,000 for Orangeburg Road sidewalks. We have one that has totally closed out since the last report, so I know this one is going to be under review. And RTP, we're still in that project setup phase for the Davis Drive path, a little less than $1 million on that project. And I know I teased this earlier, our Mobility Forward study is actually coming soon. We're under grant agreement after many months of discussions with DOT and back and forth, but we have an RFLOI that is ready to be released later this month, which we're very excited about. So we have a consultant selected later this summer, and we'll be kicking this one off. So we will be taking a close look at our federal funding policy during that study and doing stakeholder interviews with each of you most likely. That's all I have. Any questions?
So just for consistency, I guess I think the federal portion of the TMH that was through the race was 25 million, I think, Catherine. So that leaves 7 million through the LAP program. So I guess if you're going to show the all federal funding at Go Triangle on any of these projects. For all of them, okay. Because I think it would be real useful to break out what was programmed through funding through here, as opposed to what the agencies or the jurisdictions were able to secure through their own application processes in other ways. Because I think this is merging 2 different things together. And I think the point is, like, you're trying to show the board what happened with their awards, right? So I think I think it's good to show all the other money.
Yeah, funding too.
Yeah, I think it's good to show all the other funding, but I think specifically for those that are, authorized through the federal formula LAP project and approved by the board, I think it would be good to separate those out.
Okay, yeah, those details are also available in that spreadsheet that's attached to this one too. But I can do that for the presentation to the board. And Anything else?
Alright.
Rolling, last item. So see if you can come up and join me for this one. Filling in for David. All right. So this is the first time we're giving an annual safety report for Triangle West. We, as you all know, adopted our safety action plan last April. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to really brag about some of the great work you all are doing around safety in your areas. And this is our chance to do that and talk about what we've accomplished since we published the report around the action plan. That's what we're going to talk about. A little background, the grant work was awarded in 22. We started working on the plan in 24, adopted it in 25, and you'll probably remember we update our safety targets every year. We did that already this year in January, and then this is our first safety report. Little reminder about our safety goals. So our adopted targets are here, but we also have that midterm goal of reducing by half by 2035, which is not that far away, and then achieving zero by 2050. These are consistent with NCDOT safety targets. I think this one might be mine. Okay, this one's me. So this report aims to track how we're implementing the action plan and making progress toward our goals. It includes a very high-level summary of all the projects, safety planning projects and initiatives at the state level, at the regional level, and at the local level. And then we also did some analysis of severe crashes in our planning area for 2024. Okay. So I'm gonna turn it over to Lucia, who really worked hard on developing this report.
Hi, everyone. So the next couple of slides are just going to be some important data points related to the safety report. So on this slide, you can see that we have 3 completed NCDOT safety projects in our region, and we have 22 that are actually currently underway with an estimated total of $10 million or almost $11 million in investments to safety projects across the region. And so the map over there shows you the different locations of those, and they really do cover most of the region, or cover a pretty broad swath of it. And so, additional data points, we do have traffic deaths are continuing to rise, which is an important situation to monitor, and kind of touches on what Colleen said earlier in the meeting about making sure that we're keeping safety at the forefront of all of our work. Additionally, we are seeing a decline in the number of serious injuries, which is good news for our region. In terms of economic impacts of our fatal and severe injury crashes, we are, based on data from NCDOT, we're estimating that there is around $700 million in economic impacts from all of our fatal and severe injury crashes. And these charts might look familiar to you because I believe they were used during our safety target conversation. But based on the numbers of fatal and severe injury crashes and the targets that we have been setting over the years, it is clear that we have never met our safety targets. And so this chart shows the types of vehicles that are involved in severe crashes. And so some quick definitions for passenger cars, that includes sedans and convertibles, and light trucks were defined as pickups, SUVs, vans, and minivans. And this chart provides information on what types of cars are involved in crashes, but does not necessarily cover important context around those crashes. Another key data point for bike head safety, bicycle severe crashes remain the same year over year, but we are seeing an increase in severe crashes for pedestrians. In 2024, we saw the highest number of pedestrian severe crashes on record. Finally, we have this map shows us the combination of our environmental justice data. Our environmental justice report was recently adopted, and we combine that with our data on fatal and severe injury crashes. And an alarming statistic from this analysis actually reveals that the majority of these fatal and serious injury crashes are happening in our most vulnerable communities. So this is a situation that the TPO will be continuing to monitor. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Colleen.
Right. So I talked about bragging about your work. I know David has been in touch with a lot of you looking for pictures and what you've been up to. If you take a look at the report, which I hope you do, you'll see a lot of great pictures really showcasing the work being done by our member communities. So there's been a lot that's happened since January 2025, and we're very happy to brag about it. We'll be putting out a press release most likely about that work. Upcoming things going on. So we're in the process of discussing what a TPO safety committee would look like. There's complete streets training coming up with being provided by IMD later this fall in person. Please stay tuned for our 3rd annual safety summit. This is a regional summit, and we'll be partnering with Campo this year to host it at the McKinnon Center. So hot off the press, our date is December 8th for that. So we'll be sending out the save the date shortly. We're also working with DOT traffic safety unit on a road safety audit course. This is something a few of you had asked about is, can we get trained on doing road safety audits so we can get out there and do them ourselves? And that's gonna be coming up later this fall. And then we'll be doing it all over again, updating our targets and then putting together another safety report next year. So at this point, no action required of you. Thanks for sticking around to hear the very last presentation on the long agenda. And we look forward to working with you guys on this.
Thank you.
Any questions? Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Third.
We're adjourned. All in favor, sorry. Get out of here.